go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going round that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth at this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a £5 in a pot and you can go and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the park's hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. What about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner, says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. But they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide rides surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed Whack the Rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park, a house of mirrors where they're all boarded up because they can't bear to look themselves in the eye.
I've got a great one for you, mate.
This is for the is this for the Universal theme park run by Labour?
Moat right around the park.
Yeah.
With loads of dinghies. Call it the channel and say anyone who can break in, all is free.
Imagine a Scouser say you can break into a theme park for free.
Hi, Jeremy. Hey, it's simple. You've got the Labour ghost train.
Yeah.
We're everywhere.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good morning. This is Talk. I'm Peter Cardwell, kicking off 2.5 hours of great discussion on two major topics, some other stories as well, but the two major things we're talking about are Prince Andrew giving up his titles, or at least not using them, as Duke of York and a member of the Order of the Garter. We're also talking about why Keir Starmer just can't sort out the mess about the Aston Villa match. They're playing Maccabi's Tel Aviv, and they've been told that the Israeli fans can't go there. This was a big scandal yesterday. It's continuing today. Loads of people want to talk about it. I can see the phones going already. 0344 499 1000. Has Starmer got a grip on public order? If you can't police a football match, and if you as Prime Minister can't simply say, we want this football match to go ahead, well, what power does he actually have? We'll talk about all of that. Let me know what you think about the scourge of anti-Semitism in this country. The fact that we have members of Parliament in the House of Commons talking about the fact that they do not want Israeli fans, Jewish fans, looking at this, going to this football stadium and watching this match. We'll talk as well about the fact that the pro-Gaza MP who cheered the shutout of Israeli football fans has also cast doubt on the 7th of October, and the birthday cake facing a ban at nurseries under a Labour crackdown. They do not want children to eat birthday cake. Yes, really, Britain 2025. We'll talk about the HMO, Housing Multiple Occupancy, landlords boasting online about lucrative asylum seeker deals. We're going to talk to Penny Mordaunt as well. She's got a new book out, Dame Penny Mordaunt. She is also co-chair of a commission on anti-Semitism. We'll talk to her, and we'll talk about Zelensky offering Trump drones for Tomahawks. Lots to discuss. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me at 72222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note, less than a minute, please. Send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a ring, all on the main number 0344 499 1000. The question today that we're asking, has Starmer got a grip on public order? When you think about what's going on in Birmingham, when you think about everything else, when you think about the fact that Keir Starmer says, you know, he's got his culture secretary, he's got his home secretary, he's got members of his cabinet trying to sort out the situation in Birmingham, yet here we are on day 3, it's still not sorted out. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Plenty to discuss between now and 12:30 here on Talk. Well, thank you so much for your company this morning. There's loads to discuss. I can see the phones going. We'll answer those calls as quickly as we can and get as many people on air as possible. Has Starmer got a grip on public order? We'll get to that in just a second, but I just want to talk about the big news breaking last night, literally a minute before I ended Talk Drive. I do Talk Drive on Thursdays and Fridays, as you know. And this was that Prince Andrew is to no longer use his Duke of York title. This is the inevitable conclusion of the huge scandal that has engulfed him for 6 years now, longer actually. You speak to Ingrid Seward, who's editor of Majesty magazine. She's a royal biographer as well. Ingrid, thank you for joining me this morning. What do you make of this and why now?
Well, I think the problem with Prince Andrew, as everybody knows, is his arrogance, and I rather feel that the statement that he made was just another example of his arrogance, and it should have been, you know, if you're in a really sticky situation, the best thing to do is to say as little as possible. So he put out the statement, but at the end he sort of then reiterated that basically I am innocent of all these claims.
Yeah, he doubled down, didn't he?
He doubled down, and I just think that's so him. So I actually, although I'm obviously a monarchist, I actually feel that statement didn't do any good at all, and he was obviously forced into the position of agreeing to sort of, you know, put his titles on hold, if you like, and I don't feel that he's been humbled in any way. And although the Giuffre family seemed to be very pleased with the fact that Andrew had put his titles into abeyance or had been forced to, I don't think it's actually made a great deal of difference. I think if Andrew was anything of a man, he'd say, well, I am, you know, I'm desperately sorry about all of this, and it's, you know, it could have been very different, and he could have said, well, actually, although I am a prince of the blood and I am Prince Andrew, I'm not going to use that title anymore. I'm just going to be a normal, you know, Mountbatten Windsor. That's what he is. Yeah,
it's interesting in terms of not using the titles. He's not actually giving them up per se. He could, in theory, still use them, because it would take an act of Parliament, wouldn't it, to actually strip him of the title of Duke of York?
Yes, it would, and I think that the King again felt, or his advisors felt, it was not a good use of Parliament's time to be, you know, to be getting rid of titles of his family.
So does this actually add up to much, other than it being symbolic, Ingrid?
I don't think it does add up to nearly enough. No, I think it's symbolic. I mean, he will continue to live in Royal Lodge, which of course he has every right to do because he's got a watertight lease there. And we won't see much of him, but there'll still be paparazzi hanging around and getting pictures of him, you know, out riding in Windsor Great Park. I think it is still symbolic. And of course, there's going to be a lot more coming out. We're expecting the Epstein tapes to be dripped out as they have been, and also we got Virginia Giuffre's book being published next week, so it's going to go on, which is why the King, of course, had to do something about it.
Yes, and do you think the King has acted well here? I mean, clearly Prince Andrew was doing what he was told in all of this. It wouldn't have been his first choice. He said he was distracting. He's been distracting for a very long time. We've got his links now with an alleged Chinese spy master. This has gone on for 6 years, really, hasn't it? Longer. I mean, it's gone on, I'm not very good on dates, but it's gone on since 2011, I think, which is after Epstein was convicted of being a paedophile. Yeah.
And, I think there was an article in Vanity Fair written way back then, I think it was in 2011, why is Andrew hanging out with a convicted paedophile?
Certainly. Ingrid, listen, good to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much to Ingrid Seward there, who's editor of Majesty magazine. She's a royal biographer as well. What do you make of the Andrew scandal? There are loads of front pages this morning. Daily Express, Andrew, I will no longer use Duke of York title. Mirror, Andrew quits Duke title as well. Andrew gives up titles, and the Sun, I don't have the Sun here unfortunately, but it has a very good headline about the old Duke of York. Andrew falls on his sword. Andrew falls on his sword, says the Daily Mail, and under intense pressure from the King, he finally agrees to relinquish dukedom and membership of the Order of the Garter. Band old Duke of York is the Sun headline. I just don't have the paper in front of me. Loads to discuss. We'll get into that with our debate desk panellists. Zach Wagman, who's a Conservative councillor for Stanmore, and James Bealby, the political commentator, will be here in a moment. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000.
What kind of message does this send out that you may not go to Birmingham as a Jew if you happen to support this football team? Is this what it's come to, that we can't manage to police a football match in order to allow both sides to attend? It is the wrong decision. It must be overturned. Otherwise, the message about what this country is, where it's headed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you to George in Dundee, who says UEFA should make the game to be played behind closed doors if away fans are banned. That's a really interesting point, actually. Do you think all fans should not go to this match between Tel Aviv Maccabees and Aston Villa? I think everyone should be allowed to go to it if they want to. And if we're simply saying we can't police a football match, well, what else can't we police? Are we saying that people can't go to synagogues because we can't police that, because that's not safe? I mean, at what stage do we actually put our foot down here and say we're not going to be dictated to by the minority here? We're not going to be dictated to people who just don't like Jews. We'll talk about that in a second. On Andrew, lots of people getting in touch as well. Amanda says, in time, Andrew should try to redeem his broken image by quietly taking up charity works and turning his life around and informing the decent public of how bad things really are. Amanda, I know certainly there are people like James Profumo, for example, Jack Profumo, of course, who did loads of charity work and certainly was someone who, after that huge scandal in the 70s, came forward and really was someone who redeemed his image to a huge degree. Whether Amanda Prince Andrew has the humility to do that is a big question. We'll get into that with the debate desk in a second. Andy, not Prince Andrew, Andy says, morning Peter, you can do what the other presenters won't do apart from being not liked. What crime has Prince Andrew committed? I know you can do it. He hasn't committed any crimes. What he has done is shown he may well have committed crimes, but he denies that, certainly when it comes to Virginia Giuffre. He is accused of certain things. He made that go away by paying her 12 million quid. And lots of people say, why would you pay 12 million pounds or promise to pay 12 million pounds? She says you never actually received the money. Why would you do that to someone you hadn't met, as Prince Andrew claimed? I think there's just been an appalling lack of judgment by Prince Andrew more than anything else. He was a good friend and stood up for a paedophile. Then he denied it, lied about it, and he's in disgrace as a result. And I think that is well-deserved disgrace, because he is someone who has not told the truth, has prevaricated, and had been associated with someone he shouldn't have been associated with. In fact, he stayed with him. Peter Mandelson, as well, was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein, which makes you wonder what Jeffrey Epstein actually had on these people, or maybe he was just an incredibly charming person. Now he is no longer with us. But Ghislaine Maxwell, who people always say, oh, a socialite, oh, Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend. No, paedophile Ghislaine Maxwell, sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and rightly so. Right then, let's go to the debate desk. Zach Bagman is with me, Conservative councillor for Stanmore. Good to see you. And James Bealby, the political commentator, joining us again on the debate desk. On Andrew, James, your thoughts? Was he right to... I mean, he hasn't quite given up his title. That would take an act of parliament, but he's not going to use it. Right option?
He gets that as a matter of birth, doesn't he? He's always a prince, no matter what nefarious practices he may or may not have got involved with. I think he's done the right thing. The right thing, not the wrong thing. He did the wrong thing, and now he's done the right thing. But it's far too late. Why wasn't this done years ago? If you remember, back in 2019, he went on the famous Emily Maitlis interview, thinking, oh, this will clear the air. It didn't have that effect. It had exact opposite effect to that. And I think he's essentially not a very smart man. Obviously, he's been living a life as a royal since birth. He's been cosseted, but I don't think he's been particularly well advised. And I think he probably believes that he's a lot cleverer than he is, and thinks he can get away with things. And obviously, everything's come home to roost now. One thing I think they should do is say to him, you can't live on the Windsor estate. I know he has a lot of deals with people around the world because of his sort of royal connections, and other royal families, perhaps in the Middle East, sort of like that and respond to that. But he's living there with private money. Obviously, a lot of rent is paid. I think the prince should, the king should say to him, now you have to move out. You're no longer part of this family, which is essentially what they've said. And living on the estate is wrong. The fact he can drive around in his Range Rover and play polo and go riding and stuff in the grounds. I think they should take the next step. So they've done the right thing, but there's further they can go.
Zach, what do you think?
I think I really agree with everything you said there. I think there's two issues here in how he's dealt with, both in the public and the private sense. He is a member of the family, not royal family, capital R, capital F, but he is the brother of the king and a relation. If they want him over for birthdays, for private Christmas lunch, whatever, that's up to them. That's up to them. But I think you're absolutely right. In terms of public, he should not be involved. He should not be anywhere near it because of the disrepute he's brought to the family and because of the sort of negative attention he's brought to them for very good reason that it's been negative. And I think, like you say, unfortunately, his tenancy at Windsor lasts for another 50 years or so.
Right.
I have no doubt, though, that there are ways that if it was not wanted for him to be at Windsor, they could find a way to get rid of him from Windsor.
I'm sure they could.
And I think, the latest smoking gun, as it were, this has all come about because of leaked emails to Jeffrey Epstein in the last few, or the emails from years ago were leaked in the last few weeks, and it makes you think, what's going to happen next time there's a leak, and so on.
Yeah.
He needs to just say, and as you say, he's been most likely very poorly advised and probably thinks higher of himself than he should. He needs to say, I've got this wrong, whatever it is. Obviously, he denies the allegations or protest his innocence, but accept that this has brought the royal family to disrepute and just disattach himself from it.
Yeah.
What should he do next, James? I mean, I don't think he can get his reputation back.
No.
Warren Buffett famously said it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to lose it. I would bring that up to date by saying it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 1 tweet to lose it.
Yes, of course.
But with Prince Andrew, is there any way back? Because I mentioned Jack Perfumo there previously, who just very quietly did charity work, worked with vulnerable people. Should he do something like that?
He worked with the fallen women of the East End, didn't he? And did some great works. No, I don't think so. I don't think a charity would really want Prince Andrew rocking up, trying to sort of whitewash his reputation. He should live a private life. I mean, what is he now, 65? So he's got 20 years left. He should just a vow of silence, stay out of the public eye, and lead a private life with no funding from the Crown Estate.
Okay, and we'll continue to talk about this throughout the programme, and let me know your thoughts on all of it. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. I want to talk now about the other huge issue. It's been around now, this is day 3, and it is absolutely outrageous that the government can't just sort this out. It says it's going to sort it out. It says they're going to do all they can. Keir Starmer says they're going to do all they can to make sure this match goes ahead and everybody who wants to see it sees it. This is a football match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and Aston Villa, and there is now a ban on the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. That is a local safety advisory group, or SAG, which has come up with that. But of course the local MP, Ayub Khan, he is an independent MP, he's a pro-Gaza MP. This is what he said about the fans.
Many residents have raised concerns about the football match which is due to take place on the 6th of November. Maccabi Tel Aviv. We've all seen those harrowing images from Amsterdam. I've started a petition to boycott Maccabi Tel Aviv. There is no space for violence or any thugs to come into Aston or indeed Birmingham. That is why I urge everyone to sign up to this petition. Boycott Maccabi Tel Aviv.
He then celebrated it when the ban came in.
Well, excellent news for the people of Birmingham and, most importantly, the residents here in Aston. I launched a petition to oppose the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming to Birmingham and then into the Aston Villa Stadium. The surrounding ward of Aston is a ward that sits within my constituency, and I had many residents and businesses express concern of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming into our area. Clearly, we have all witnessed the scenes in Amsterdam, the violence that was displayed by the fans the night before the match. We all watched and listened to those vile chants of hatred and racism, and so there's no space for that kind of behaviour here in Birmingham. There's certainly no space for that kind of conduct in Aston. So I'm very pleased that both the West Midlands Police and Aston Villa Football Club have now written to UEFA informing them of their decision not to allow any fans from entering Birmingham and Aston.
Well, we're talking to a Birmingham City Councillor at 11 o'clock. What I would suggest very strongly is that Ayub Khan is willfully misinterpreting and willfully misunderstanding what happened in Amsterdam. What happened where there were a few thugs. They did pull down a Palestinian flag a year ago. They chanted in Hebrew. I'm not sure how many Dutch people know Hebrew. What happened was there was an organised attempt, a successful attempt. 7 people were serious. 7 people were hospitalised. 20 people were injured in regard to what was called on WhatsApp a Jew hunt. Now, what Ayub Khan is willfully misinterpreting, in my strongly held personal belief, is that he is saying that it was essentially started by the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. Now, there are some Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, I'm sure, who could have acted in a better way. I'm not defending every single one of them. But what happened in Amsterdam was a shameful attack on Jewish people. He is essentially saying that that's going to happen in Birmingham. Now, I think that is an unfair characterisation and description of what happened in Amsterdam, and I think he's doing that for very clear purposes. He may disagree with that. He's laid out, we've played what he said, we've given him a say. Let's give a say to Zach Wagman and James Bealby. Zach, your thoughts on all of this?
Firstly, I agree with what you said, Peter. The MP there is deliberately, I'll say the word, in my opinion, he is deliberately lying. in Amsterdam, 62 people were arrested on that night, where there was sort of coming together between the fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv and Ajax. And of those 62, only 5 of them were fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv. And I would say for a travelling European contingent, and I've watched my team play abroad and whatever, having 5 people arrested is part and parcel when people get drunk, and that happens with football fans from all clubs, including English clubs. He has led a campaign to stop Israeli and Jewish supporters coming to watch football in Birmingham, and that says firstly more about him than those fans that he doesn't want to be there, but also the fact that the police say that they can't manage this, that they can't protect these people, reflects really poorly on the people of Birmingham that are going to be, or in theory, seen as putting these Maccabi Tel Aviv fans at threat. You know, this is not the Aston Villa fans. I suspect most Aston Villa fans, they have teams come from wherever to play. They want to enjoy it. This is a no doubt minority, but a sizable minority of people in his constituency or in and around the Birmingham and Midlands area that are going to make life uncomfortable because they don't want Israeli and Jewish football fans coming to watch their team. And Ayub Khan has lied, and people have gone with his lies, and ultimately this is why we've seen the police take this awful action. I'm sure Ayub Khan would deny lying. It's up to our viewers and listeners what they think. And as Zach says, you know, Tottenham Hotspur, which are have many Jewish fans, as do Aston Villa, but Tottenham Hotspur have loads of Jewish fans. They're playing tomorrow, and it'll be fine. It'll be policed well. The police will do their job. Why can't they do that with Maccabi Tel Aviv? James, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's not a good look for West Midlands Police saying that they can't police a football match. I mean, there's probably 50 football matches happening today in the league alone, and loads more in the non-leagues, and all of those will be policed. The policing is paid for largely by the clubs themselves because of the risk of hooliganism. But you've got the UK Football Policing Unit who make an assessment on matches and the level of policing that's required. And I think in this instance, it's not so much about penalising the Maccabi fans. I think it's possibly more about the fact that there's a risk that lots of Muslim youths will turn up and protest against the fans.
hasn't talked about that, and we haven't been told the nature of the threat, and that's often the way with Islamist violence. We're never really given the full picture.
But I think there's another thing at play as well, which we don't know about. They may well have received intel that right-wing football hooligans, Tommy Robinson supporters, are going to turn up to support Tel Aviv outside of the ground, and then there would be potential of violence with Muslim youths. So they may have made the assessment on that basis. We don't know. But I don't think it's penalising the fact that it's a Jewish team as such. I don't think it's made on an anti-Semitic basis. I think it's the basis is based on the intelligence of what's going to happen at that match in those circumstances.
Yeah, the Prime Minister says it can happen. Zach?
Well, I think, like, as you say, we don't know the details behind it, but if something like that were to happen, I know we both go to football matches frequently. There are creative ways that you can police this. I've been to Villa Park before, and there's a number of entrances, and you can set up a further barricade, and you say, to get past this point, you need your ticket, and the further you spread that, the harder it is. The reality of the matter is, the police have said we can't, or we choose not to make this safe for the Jewish and Israeli football fans to go. And by the way, as is the case when any European team comes to play in England, you get domestic supporters or expats from those countries that go. So my team, Arsenal, played Olympiacos recently. Lots of Greeks living in London attended that. There'll be lots of Israelis and Jews in this country. That will, I have a Maccabi Tel Aviv shirt. I would have been interested in going, that will want to go. And ultimately, the people that this is victimising are football fans, the vast majority of whom want to go and see their team, be peaceful and enjoy watching it, and that's what's happened here.
I do agree with that. Yeah, I do agree with that. And it is,
just very briefly,
it's not about the Maccabi fans per se. I think it's more about what's going to happen around the ground.
It's worth noting that when Maccabi Tel Aviv faced Ajax in the Europa League last year, the travelling fans of the Israeli team were subject to outbursts of violence after the game. Dutch police arrested 62 people following the clashes and 5 hospitalised, as Zach was saying there. Mark in Southampton says Ayub Khan is a liar and a disgrace. He should be sacked. Mick says once again Starmer has been discovered to be a hypocrite. There are photos of him in 2015 advocating Israel be banned from FIFA. That is correct. We're asking the question, has Starmer got a grip on public order? I'm going to ask the Liberal Democrats Christine Jardine about that in a second. We'll get more from the debate desk as well. Stay with us here on Talk.
across the UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, just had a look at Twitter there during the break, and thanks everybody who's been in touch. Ken says, Peter, the outrageous decision to stop Jewish fans, for that is what it is, isn't, as we well know, for their safety. It's because the authorities know that there will be a mass of baying anti-Semites descending on Villa Park and that they simply don't want to be forced to confront them. I think this decision is all the hallmarks of cowardice, and who do we all acknowledge is the biggest coward in this country? Well, in fairness to Keir Starmer, who I think you're referencing there, he is at least trying to sort this out, but he's the Prime Minister of this country, and he can't ensure fan safety at a football match. And this story's been around for nearly 48 hours now. We're also told the Home Office was warned of this a week ago as well. We'll talk to Christine Jardine in a second, but let me just read out a couple more messages. David Leyland here. I have a question I'd like to ask people. If you're tasked with destroying a country without conflict, how would you go about it? It's interesting to watch realisation take over their faces as they start to list things that are already in motion now in the UK. Leslie says the MP calling for the ban, as just said, his second objection is on moral grounds, not just safety. Can one suspect the second reason is it really driving his initial request to ban Israeli football fans? Another Leslie, different Leslie, says, hi Peter, how can Starmer stand up for the Israeli team when there's a clip of him in London in 2015 standing in front of a banner saying kick Israeli racism out of FIFA? That is correct. That is going around the internet, and he's changed his mind on many, many things. Lee in Bristol, Lee, I disagree with you on this, says, why don't they just put a cordon of a mile around the Villa Stadium and say no Muslims allowed for 90 minutes? There are plenty of peaceful Muslims. There are plenty of, I expect there's some many Muslim fans of Aston Villa, if not Tel Aviv Maccabees. Zach?
By the way, and what Lee obviously is unaware, is the 19-year-old centre-forward who plays for Maccabi Tel Aviv is a Muslim Arab.
Should he be banned? I don't think so. I don't want to ban Muslims. I want to ban anti-Semites. I want anti-Semites to stop what they're doing. Not all Muslims are anti-Semites, and not all anti-Semites are Muslims. And a final one from Sean in Gloucester before we go to Christine Jardine. Good morning, Peter. Good morning, Sean. Regarding the Aston Villa match, how would things look if the situation were reversed? What would these people say if all Muslims and Asian people were banned from a cricket match between England and Pakistan, for example? Well, you may ask, Sean. Let me ask a version of that to Christine Jardine, the Liberal Democrat MP for Edinburgh West. Christine, thanks for joining us on a busy morning. I know you are at the Liberal Democrats Scottish Conference. Many congratulations this week. I know you got 7 new councillors as well. Clearly people are listening to the Lib Dems in various parts of the country, so well done for that.
Thank you.
I just want to ask you specifically about this match between Maccabi Tel Aviv and the fact that the Prime Minister says that he's attempting to sort it out. That was yesterday at tea time. It's still not sorted out. What should happen?
Well, I think what they should do is they should lift the ban, because you don't tackle anti-Semitism by punishing the victims of anti-Semitism. They have to organise the match, make sure it's policed correctly, make sure that the fans can get there safely, and that's what they should do. The match should go ahead as planned.
What do you think it says about our country that we have a safety group and a major police force, West Midlands Police, that say they cannot keep a football match with travelling fans safe? That is a shocking indictment, is it not, of this country?
It is. And I think that the police do need better resource. We do need better funding of the police force. We need to ensure that they are facing an enormous burden at the moment in policing protests, in policing football matches, and also policing, everyday crime. It is an enormous process, and they need to be resourced properly. But I think in this particular instance, what we need is some common sense to prevail over this football match, for it to be policed properly, as it would be normally, and to recognise that the football fans who are coming to see a football match are not responsible for anything else.
What is your thought on what Ayub Khan, the local MP, has been saying in all of this? Because I don't think he's been responsible in what he's done. I don't think he's been responsible or actually truthful, frankly, in some of the things he has been saying. What do you think of his message and the fact that he and Jeremy Corbyn brought this petition forward?
I think at the moment it's important, with so much tension on our streets, so much anti-Semitism we're seeing on the rise, so much anti-Muslim feeling as well on the rise, that we are all very responsible careful about what we say, and that we don't do anything to incite the situation further or to give people a reason to feel threatened. And I think from that point of view, it's important that not just he is responsible about what he says, but that we are all responsible about what we say and what we do. And I think this situation could have easily been avoided if we had just left the police to get on with their job and the football authorities to get on with theirs and allowed, the match to go ahead.
It was the police themselves, though. But Christine, it was the police themselves who said they couldn't police it. They were the ones who made the decision to say it should be banned, and this safety advisory group, I mean, if we let them to get on with their job, that's what they've come back and said.
Well, no, I think the issue for me is that I wonder how many people in this country would have been aware that Maccabi Tel Aviv were playing Aston Villa.
That's a fair point.
How many people would have been bothered by it? How many people would have thought to take part in any sort of protest that they're now thinking about? The issue has been drawn attention to by the comments is part of the problem with it. And rather than try and resolve the situation, it has made it worse. And I think that the match should go ahead as was planned. And we cannot start banning people because of where they come from. And as I say, anti-Semitism is a huge problem in this country at the moment, and this sort of statement, this sort of action, for me, it exacerbates it.
Just before you go, Christine, I know you're busy at this conference, just tell us your thoughts on Prince Andrew not using his titles as Duke of York and a member of the Knight of the Garter as well. Do you think that's the right thing? Too little, too late? Should it have happened before? What do you think?
I think it's the right thing to do. I think he's obviously aware that with his brother now being king, that everything that he says and does reflects upon his brother and the royal family in general, and he has, I think, done the right thing.
Okay.
But I think we have to remember that there is a bigger issue out there that we need to address. And, there is a problem in society with its attitude to women generally. But I think in this instance, Prince Andrew has done the right thing.
OK, Christine, thank you. I'll let you get back to your conference. That's Christine Jardine. They're the MP for Edinburgh West for the Liberal Democrats. Just a quick word from Zach and James on what Christine was saying there, James.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of disagree with her in some respects. I think the Safety Advisory Group has made the decision based on the evidence that's in front of them. And I think if we're saying that we're going to override those structures on political grounds, then what happens if there is an incident? She was talking about responsibility there.
But the Prime Minister has said that he's going to make sure the resources are there.
But what happens if there's a violence and somebody gets stabbed and killed? Is it Keir Starmer who's responsible?
No, I don't think people would blame him necessarily. I think they would say, look, let's have a huge amount of security if it is in fact needed, which it now is. No thanks to Ayub Khan and his ilk.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the comments that he's made have been very, very unhelpful and inflammatory. But I think you've got these structures in place to make these decisions based on evidence. I don't think it's the job of politicians to ride over those just because it's politically expedient.
Zach?
I do somewhat disagree, and having been involved with safety advisory groups in the past, everyone under the sun comes in and ultimately listens to what the police tells them, broadly. That may not have been the case here, but that's how they tend to work. And ultimately, I think it is up to our Prime Minister or our elected politicians that if they see something that they deem to be egregious and really going against the grain of what should happen in this country, they should absolutely say we're going to overrun that. And I think this points to a wider issue across society and across politics where decisions are being taken away from our politicians, so that actually if the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary see something that the Safety Advisory Group, a bureaucratic group in the Midlands, disagree with, they should be able to say, look, we want to work with you to change that. In the same way this week we saw with the China case, the officials got involved, the ministers couldn't. Actually, we need to see more across society, of politicians saying we disagree with what the officials have said, we're going to make it happen. You work constructively to enable it, and there are things the Prime Minister and the Home Office can do. But to say, we disagree with the officials, so it's going to happen because we think it's right.
I take the opposite view. I think the quality of politicians in this country is so low that we should allow experts to make decisions, not elected politicians.
I'm happy with democracy. Let's speak to Susan in Hertfordshire about the match in Birmingham. Susan, you're very welcome to the programme. We're talking to me and also Zach and James. What would you like to say?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Morning.
I just feel, as a Jewish citizen of this country, I am really tired every day of waking up with another form of anti-Semitism that seems to be so acceptable in this country. And, this is nothing to do with the fans. This is to do with the Israeli team playing. And the Gaza MPs have made that perfectly clear. And it just seems that if this is accepted in this country, this is another part of the dripping tap that is slowly dripping, making life in this country becoming intolerable for Jewish people.
I just agree with every single word you've said, Susan. Within the last week, we've had a fun run in Victoria Park in London that has excluded women over 12. Any woman over 12 couldn't take part in that. That was organised by a Muslim grouping. We also have this MP and many people supporting him as well. It's not just him, including Jeremy Corbyn and including many people in the area, saying that they do not want an Israeli team there. Susan, it was interesting hearing from the Prime Minister. He says actions, not words, are needed. He was speaking on Thursday. We played that clip yesterday. He said, I want Jewish people to feel a deep sense of security.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, Susan, but I'm sensing you're not feeling a deep sense of security at all.
Well, what I feel is I don't want to go to a synagogue. I don't want to send my kids to a school where they're barricaded in and they need all this security. You've got to deal with the cause of the problem.
Correct.
He's saying we want to give you more. We don't want that. We want to live as normal people. I'm fed up every day of Jewish this, Jewish this. I just want to live quietly in my country that I've lived in all my life, that my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents have lived here as British Jews, and just getting on with being British, living in this country. Stop having this Jewish thrown in our face every single day. And we know where it's coming from. They know where it's coming from. They need to deal with the extremist Muslims in this country that are preaching hatred in their mosques, like these MPs that have got their petition rolling and have got what they wanted to get. It's not to do with the fans, it's to do with Israel. And, what do people think in this country that the Britain looks like in Israel now? They've just come through the most horrific war, they've paid a huge price for, not only in losing soldiers, but in having to release 2,000 known terrorists back onto the streets. They've paid a huge price. Their football team, which is a multicultural team that Zach said has got Muslim Arab players playing in the team. You couldn't get a better example of coexistence within this team, and yet we've got this whole hoo-ha and all this horrible hatred around it, and people are just fed up with it.
Susan, thank you for your thoughts there. Susan in Hertfordshire. It's hard to disagree with anything she says, James.
Yeah, I think she's right. Obviously, as a Jewish person, that's her experience of being a Jewish person in Britain. I live in North London, obviously amongst a lot of Jewish people. And, I'm not Jewish, I'm Gentile, but we coexist very peacefully with our Jewish neighbours and friends. So,
at what point does Keir Starmer have to say, this is Islamism, this is extreme Muslim ideology here? Because he's not saying that. He hasn't been as...
About what particular aspect?
Well, about the fact that there is a threat to our way of life. There are numerous examples, including this one, where there is radical Islamic ideology that is around this that simply does not like Jews.
But I don't think there's a threat to our way of life. I'm not
really
sure. Whose way of life?
Well,
Jewish people?
No, Jewish people and the British way of life more generally. You don't think there's a threat to our way of life?
No, I don't think so. I think it's there's obviously an extreme minority, but I think that's generally a minority in society. I don't see that in my day-to-day life.
Do you agree, Zach?
I have to disagree with you there. I think there is a real threat to our way of life. I have to say what we saw in Manchester a couple of weeks ago, saw 2 people lose their lives. And the way of life in Britain is that there's freedom of worship and freedom of religion for everybody. And those 2 people were going to their synagogue in the same way that day. I went to my synagogue and I had to stand guard to make sure outside that didn't happen. And as far as I'm concerned, if people like Susan are scared to go to synagogue, that is a threat to our way of life, whatever religion it is, whether that's Jewish people, and indeed there have been attacks on mosques in recent
Exactly,
weeks.
yeah.
And the fact that there are people, and there's a huge threat to communities in this country from Islamists, but also from the far left and the far right. But I think we don't see an engagement with this issue of Islamism. It's not for me to say why they don't do this, but the fact that murder in Manchester was very clearly Islamist inspired. The police, to my knowledge, at least didn't say for days that was the reason. I still don't think they've confirmed it. When we can all see that was the reason, I think we can all.
Well, they did say within 24 hours he may have been influenced by online Islamist ideology. I mean, I think it's very, very clear that he was. Barry's been in touch and says what's happening at Aston Villa is a window into the future of this country. The people who don't accept this country will be Islamic in decades' time. They're in denial and frankly betraying future generations. JD Vance has every reason to be concerned that an Islamic country will have nuclear weapons. Trump and he will need to act or we are lost. Another person says, great show. What is stoking the Aston Villa issue is also that the police might have credible intel, but they're keeping silent while Ayub Khan is claiming a personal victory in this. Alison also says the Metropolitan Police will call officers in from other forces, mutual aid it's called. I've seen the badges to help the marches. Why can't West Midlands Police ask for this? Well, I think they're probably going to get it, but it's taken the Prime Minister to intervene. But has he actually got a grip on this? That's the question we're asking today. Has Starmer got a grip on public order, especially when it comes to what's happening in Birmingham? Lots more to come from Zach and James on the debate desk in just a minute. Stay with us.
This is right outside the school. Two guys smoking sheesh pipes. And there's the playground in the background. So this is what's happening around Cherry Lane Primary School in West Drayton as we're talking. Look at this. Look at this.
I've never seen anything like it. Look at the
this.
state. Look at that.
Look at this. Come through this underground tunnel walkway, a pedestrian pathway that goes underneath the M4.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very interesting point just on the Maccabees Tel Aviv point as well. We've got the World Cup coming up next year. What will happen to the Israeli team? Is this hatred going to continue? Also, in 2028 in the UK and Ireland, the Euros are here. If Israel qualifies, will they not be able to go to Villa Park, for example? Or there are venues in Ireland, for example, which is a huge problem with anti-Semitism, that they wouldn't be allowed to go to. There's so many points. If you have questions, thoughts on this, comments, definitely let me know. 0344 499 1000. Keep your voice notes coming in as well. Keep them to less than a minute. We'll play a few of those soon as well. But I just want to talk with Zach Wagman and James Bailey, who are still on the debate desk with me, about this story about Labour recommending banning birthday cake from primary schools and nurseries. This is guidance issued by the Department of Education advising schools to discourage parents from bringing in sweets or cake to mark their toddler's birthday. Instead, schools have been told to promote healthy eating habits by requesting parents bring in fruit platters instead of non-edible options such as bubble kits or stickers. Now, I know Boris Johnson had his own problems with birthday cake, but James, birthday cake, we're depriving children of birthday cake. Like, this is serious stuff.
It is the big issue.
Why would you ever do that?
Well, I think it's probably something as straightforward as allergies. Lots of kids have allergies, and lots of cakes probably
don't
contain
eat the cake.
that. I think bringing it into the school environment is probably a no-no because of airborne sort of nuts and what have
Really?
you.
I would just don't have nuts in them. You can bring cake in. Come on, you can bring cake into a school.
I think it's probably a story which has been slightly conflicted, you know, sort of baked up, if you like.
Are you accusing Her Majesty's Daily Telegraph of laying it on thick, not with cream or jam, it must be said, but Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg has been involved with this. He has commented. He says, "Nanny sends my younger children into school on their birthdays with little cakes, which is a pleasure for everyone, especially me, as she always makes a few extra. Only socialists want to stop such innocent pleasures." Zach?
Well, you know, I can't put it better than Jacob Rees-Mogg, of course. And one of the straplines that came out of the Conservative Party conference recently was Labour hates fun because of the effect they're having on closing down pubs, nightclubs, bars, and this is your natural extension of it.
Let them eat cake.
Well, exactly, let them eat cake. But as you say, the allergies point is a very serious one. But I think it's very plausible to say, you know, if you're bringing a cake that you bought from a shop or so on, it will have the allergens on it, and you can say, well, you know, we're going to open it here, or you can say to parents at the start of the year, you know, little Johnny doesn't eat nuts or whatever, so please make sure if you are going to make cake. And I think it's possible to do the two. But quite frankly, we all have birthdays, obviously, every year, but kids enjoy their birthdays often, you know, more than adults. When you turn 6 or 7, there's nothing more you want to do than blow out the candles with your friends, and quite frankly, this is overreach from the state. If someone wants to send in a fruit platter, that's absolutely
You've got to feel
fine.
sorry for the poor teachers, though, when those kids have had a massive sugar rush and they're trying to teach them the times tables.
It's a fair point. I must say I have very little self-control, and I worked in a particular newsroom, not this one, where they had a treats table, and literally it seemed like every day they had loads of cakes and sweets, and it was sort of almost piled high with sort of Haribo and all those other kind of things, and I just grazed, and it was really, really bad for me. But I mean, I do think it comes to something when you say that children especially who celebrate birthdays, and birthdays are a really important time for them, that is, you know, that's a childhood pleasure, birthday cake, is it not?
I think so, yeah. But they can have them at home. They can have their parties at home, you know.
I say keep them in schools. Zach, final thought on this?
I think you're absolutely right, and I think all of the issues that you've brought, valid issues, can be combated. You know, let them have their cake. Let them eat their cake just before playtime when they run around outside. Have it at the end of the day. You know, I'd be interested to know whether this would apply to teachers' staff rooms as well. Because
well, that's a very good point.
The custard creams in the staff rooms are going to be allowed to stay.
I'm a local governor of a local primary school near where I live, and actually parents do bring in cakes, but the teachers say no, we don't want them, because obviously for the reasons you've outlined, Peter.
Okay. Well, the guidance says many families like to celebrate their child's birthday and other special events by bringing in cake or sweets to the setting to share. This can mean that some children are eating these unhealthy foods several times a week. One primary school told parents this week it had acted on the guidance. We're not allowed to give children birthday cake or sweet treats anymore due to guidance around healthy eating. Right then, I want to talk now about another story. This is homes of multiple occupancy, and a landlord boasting online about a lucrative asylum seeker deals. This is people, some of them in Dubai, sharing tips on TikTok and YouTube about how to earn government-backed income every month. So one particular dude, you can see it on the screen now if you're watching, I own 31 properties in the UK, majority are social housing HMOs, government-backed, no management, all bills are covered by the social housing provider, maintenance costs covered by social housing provider, 7-year contract, guaranteed fixed income. Social housing, zero management, as is all done by the social housing provider, no tenant viewings, no chasing rent, but my other properties that are not social housing do require more work from me and my team. The person said, my operations manager, major part of my business, handling various things. We jump on Zoom every day, talking about all that. Accountant is really giving all the different details really. Sometimes things go wrong in all of this. But this is people boasting, essentially, about how much money they can make from the government for these HMOs, often housing asylum seekers and others. Zach, what do you make of this? Is it just capitalism in action, or is it a bit unseemly, or both?
I think it is a bit unseemly, but I think this reflects really poorly on the government rather than that individual. That person is making a video, advising how you can make the most out of your money if you're a landlord, and that's no different to the other sort of people that talk about grafting, talk about being creative and side hustles, and ensuring that you work the most effectively to get the best bang for your buck, as it were. This needs to really reflect on the government that is giving people like this individual 7-year contracts. There's no other residential environment where you'd sign on to a 7-year tenancy and then managing it all for him as well. So I think it is unseemly. I think it's distasteful. I think there are huge ethical issues. But I can't blame this TikToker.
Can you blame these people?
If the contract is there, he is doing the best for his business and his sort of financial management to take the contract. And the questions need to be pointed at the government, or more likely, the civil servants managing this process, who think that this is suitable or effective, because it's not.
I know someone who runs a small hotel who was essentially given the offer of a contract for a number of years, saying we can guarantee 365 days a year for 7 years we will have people in your hotel. He said no, and good for him for saying no, but a very, very attractive offer. James, what's your thought on this?
Well, I think we need to clear the backlog of asylum. That's the reason why these houses exist. But I think also local authorities should be given the money from central government to build houses or to buy housing stock, which then, once the backlog is cleared, that becomes then available for social housing. In Haringey, where I live, the local council has built some homes, including affordable council homes, and I think more councils should be doing that, which they can then use to house these HMOs. I think while the system exists, obviously people are going to use it and exploit it. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with that. They're just doing what's available to them. But I think also what the government is doing is, via its Renters Reform Act, will mean that lots and lots of private rental owners will release their stock for sale, which I think is a good thing, and councils should be able to buy some of those homes.
Do you think it's a good thing that the rental reform means that people are not going to rent out property?
Yeah, because
anymore?
It means they're available to buy, so people can get on the housing ladder. At
What
the moment,
about people who need to rent?
There's not enough
Surely
housing
rents will
stock.
just go up as a result.
There's not enough housing stock on the market. This releases stock. But if local authorities are able, if local authorities are able to buy that stock, then they can have it for social housing. So those people who can't afford to buy,
but it drives up rents for everybody else.
Not necessarily. Not if it's controlled by local authorities.
Well, if you have less houses available for rent, then by definition the cost of rent goes up, and lots of people want to rent rather than own because they're moving.
Lots of people want to own and they can't get on the ladder because there's not enough stock.
Exactly.
And there's not enough houses being built.
It's not going to drive prices down, though. The prices
it will mean more stock comes on the market, and also the government wants to build more homes.
The 1.5 million homes, I'm sure, absolutely certain, will be built by the end of this Parliament. Absolutely,
Don't hold your breath.
No doubt about that whatsoever. Listen, thank you both very much indeed. James Bealby, political commentator, Zach Wagman, who got the memo about the check blue shirt today and is also a massive Chesney Hawks fan, and a Conservative councillor for Stanmore. Thank you both very much for joining me on the debate desk today. Thank you to Jason in the Lake District. He's been in touch to say, we all knew that the issue is radical Islam. We all got along 40 years ago. We had businesses working together and living together in harmony. Our spineless leaders over the past 25 years have pandered to radical Islamist ideology instead of stopping it in its tracks like they have done in affluent Middle East countries. The genie is out of the bottle. The government haven't got the will or the courage to address it. Well, that Jason has addressed the question. We'd like you to address it too. Has Starmer got a grip on public order? Massimo from Great Bowden says, great show as always. I think your guest James is delusional or naive if he thinks we don't have a problem. We had a problem for years. If anyone doesn't think that Ayub Khan's petition wasn't racially motivated, then I have some swamp land in Florida to sell them. There are Muslims all over X celebrating a victory for the Maccabi ban, also organising protests against the team itself for so-called genocide. It's blatant anti-Semitism, and people are lying if they say it is not. So thank you for that. Lots more opinions coming your way. We'll get some of those voice notes played in the next hour as well. Loads to discuss. We'll go to Birmingham in just a minute as well to talk about the Aston Villa issue. Stay with us. Let me know your thoughts too.
very good morning to you, by the way. Morning, Glory, with me, Mike Graham.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
How realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind.
We basically have two countries.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, this is Talk. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company. I'm here right through until 12:30, and indeed tomorrow between 10 and 1 we'll be talking to a senior Tory, Claire Coutinho. She'll be on tomorrow. We're going to talk to a councillor in Birmingham in a second about this huge controversy in regard to Maccabi Tel Aviv, the football team that has been banned from Villa Park. Why on earth has that happened? Well, we know there's been a campaign by the local MP and Jeremy Corbyn together to get a petition together. Some people say what they're doing is anti-Semitic. They would deny that, of course. We'll get the perspective of Richard Parkin, who's a councillor on Birmingham City Council, in just a second. I want your thoughts on it as well. 0344 499 1000. We'll be talking to Dame Penny Mordaunt, the former Defence Secretary, in a few minutes' time as well. She's got a new book out about pomp and circumstance, about the different traditions in this country, and of course many of our viewers and listeners feel they're under threat. She is also a big voice against anti-Semitism, so we'll ask her about Villa Park as well. And if you have any other thoughts that you want to ask Penny Mordaunt, do get in touch. I want to hear your views between now and 12:30. We'll take some voice notes in a minute or two as well. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note, less than a minute please. Send me a WhatsApp text message or give me a ring. 0344 499 1000. The question we are asking today: has Keir Starmer got a grip on public order? Is he actually doing the right thing? He said last night that he was going to do all that he could to make sure that those Maccabi Tel Aviv fans get to Villa Park. Well, he hasn't solved it yet. He is the Prime Minister of this country. He's a massive majority. Why can't he just sort it out? And also, more widely, does he have a grip on public order? Has he got a grip of the Islamist threat to this country as well? Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us. Well, Ayub Khan is the local MP in Aston Villa, and he has been speaking about the petition that he has put forward to ban this Israeli team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, from Villa Park. This is the original post that he put up.
Many residents have raised concerns about the football match, which is due to take place on the 6th of November. Maccabi Tel Aviv. We've all seen those harrowing images from Amsterdam. I've started a petition to boycott Maccabi Tel Aviv. There is no space for violence or any thugs to come into Aston or indeed Birmingham. That is why I urge everyone to sign up to this petition. Boycott Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Well, what if the thugs are there already, Ayub? And also, he's talking about Amsterdam, where many Jewish people, including Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, came under a huge attack by many anti-Semitic people who had arranged that many, many days before. He would like to say that Maccabi Tel Aviv fans are thugs. We also have another MP, part of his grouping of pro-Gaza MPs as well, who has suggested that they are terrorists. Now, those are both untrue. There will be some who will, of course, be thugs. There are football hooligans in almost every team, certainly big teams. But to characterise all fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv like that, I think, is unfair. The ban then came in, and Ayub Khan celebrated that.
Well, excellent news for the people of Birmingham and, most importantly, the residents here in Aston. I launched a petition to oppose the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming to Birmingham and then into the Aston Villa Stadium. The surrounding ward of Aston is a ward that sits within my constituency, and I had many residents and businesses express concern of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming into our area. Clearly, we have all witnessed the scenes in Amsterdam, the violence that was displayed by the fans the night before the match. We all watched and listened to those vile chants of hatred and racism, and so there's no space for that kind of behaviour here in Birmingham. There's certainly no space for that kind of conduct in Aston. So I'm very pleased that both the West Midlands Police and Aston Villa Football Club have now written to UEFA informing them of their decision not to allow any fans from entering Birmingham and Aston.
Well, Ayub Khan declined our invitation to come on this station yesterday. I asked during Talk Drive, I present the programmes on Thursday and Friday between 4 and 7, and he declined the opportunity. I have loads of questions for him, absolutely loads of questions. First of all, is this actually about the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, or is it about people in Aston? Are there people in Aston who would be a threat to those fans themselves? Where is the intelligence on this? What are his views? And also, can he give us a clear picture of what happened in Amsterdam rather than skewing it to his own purposes, which in my strongly held personal belief is exactly what he has done. Richard Parkin is a councillor in Birmingham City Council for the Conservatives. Richard, thank you for joining me this morning. This is absolutely horrendous. You've got West Midlands Police saying that they cannot guarantee the safety of people at a football match. We also have the Safety Advisory Group. Just tell us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, good morning, Peter. Thanks for having me. Yeah, look, this is an absolutely dreadful decision, and I was incandescent when I first heard the news yesterday. And of course, yesterday, all we've seen since then is a huge amount of backpedalling from politicians and from the West Midlands Police, and it's they're rightly now reconsidering this decision in the first place. And listening to the local MP's comments there actually made me even more angry, because let's be honest, his comments are a smokescreen. The real reason that he has opposed the fans coming to this match, along with one or two other Labour councillors and the usual suspects in the Gaza group at and your party, is because they want to have. It's a protest against Israel. It's a political motivation behind this. If you read their petition, they're looking and talking about cutting cultural and sports ties with Israel. They don't want the game to go ahead at all. And it's a disgrace that the West Midlands Police have recommended that the game not go ahead. We have to do all we can to make this game go ahead. Football is a unifying sport. We cannot allow extremism and hate to win, and the government are now rightly reconsidering the decision.
Do you believe that Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, he said yesterday afternoon that they were going to do all they can to make this match actually happen. Do you think it's going to happen?
I think it's going to go ahead now. This decision has had the rare effect of unifying all the main serious political parties against it. It's clear that the government are frantically backpedalling, but there are serious questions that have to be answered here. Firstly, why did the police, when it made its recommendation to the Safety Advisory Group, they described it as a high-risk game? If that was the case, particularly in the light of the current anti-Semitism issues we're facing in this country and the Manchester attack, why didn't they go to the government and say, look, we're not going to announce this decision, and because it's going to create a really negative...
But they did, and this is the point. It was flagged to the Home Office a week previously. Look, I have slight sympathy for Shabana Mahmood here, because you get told, I work in government for 3.5 years, you get told every day these 10 things are going to go wrong and 9 of them don't, and 1 of them might be a problem and it might not. So I've slight sympathy for her. But did she, at any point, my question is to Shabana Mahmood, did she say, actually, this has to go ahead? It's incredibly important it goes ahead. We have a question from Samantha that's come in, which I think is a good one. Tell us about the Safety Advisory Group. Who's on it? What are their motivations?
Yeah, just before going to that point, I was going to suggest that the police should have really pushed this issue initially, but the Home Office, as you rightly say, was briefed on this issue last week. Yeah, as suddenly, all of a sudden, they're backpedaling, say it's really important that we do this, that and the other. If it was that important, why didn't the Home Office do something a week ago and allow this problem to fester for 7 days and then become the problem? It shows that they're not serious about tackling the issues of anti-Semitism in this country, it's clear that the rhetoric isn't backed up by their actions. And just talking about the Safety Advisory Group, I'm actually on the Birmingham City Football Club Safety Advisory Group. Unfortunately, we're not going to have the problems of playing in Europe for some time, but the long and short of it is that they meet in advance of games to take soundings from the police as to what their recommendations are regarding the actions that need to be taken in high-risk games. And on that grouping, there are councillors, there are transport officials, there are council officers, there's representatives from the police and the fire service and so on. And I would have liked to think if I'd have been on that group at the Aston Villa one, I would have been seriously questioning the police's decision.
Do safety advisory groups usually just do what the police tells them to do? I mean, I was speaking to another councillor this morning who essentially said that.
Yeah, sometimes, this issue is a very big issue and it's a very complex issue. The meetings I've been on, we haven't had to face anything like
Sure,
this.
of course, yeah.
But I would love to see the minutes from this meeting to, we've got to put it in context of what's going on in this country at the moment with the rise of anti-Semitism and the messaging that we're sending out to Jewish people that they're not safe in Birmingham. And don't forget as well that Birmingham has actually bid for the 2028 European Championships.
Yeah.
Bidding for the 2035 Women's World Cup.
Yeah.
Now, there's a possibility we might have Israel, the national team, coming to play in Birmingham in 3 years' time.
Where do you think, knowing Birmingham as you do, Richard, where do you think the threat comes from? Does it come from Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, or could it come from people in Aston, perhaps? I'm sure most of them are very, very good people who are totally law-abiding citizens. But actually, the intelligence here, from what you've heard and what your view of the city is, could the threat actually be to those fans rather than from those fans?
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that they can't guarantee the safety of the away fans. I mean, the UEFA have not got a travel ban in place with this. Yep. They want the game to go ahead and they want the away fans to attend. It's as simple as that. Any football team coming to to Villa Park or any club across the country, there's always going to be an element within the support base that is looking to cause trouble. That's just a fact. But we don't ban away fans from travelling to other clubs across the country. This is looking at the bigger picture, and the police have obviously worried about the resources they have to cope with the protests that are likely to arise. But what they should do is go to the government and say, we can't do it because we haven't got the funding or the resources. We need the funding and the resources because we must not send the wrong messaging out. This is a defining moment for this country because this is exactly the type of issues that we've got to be standing firm on. I don't know if I can quickly mention to you, but in 1938, Aston Villa played 2 games in Germany and a pre-season tour. And at the first one, they refused to do the Nazi salute and were booed by the fans. And they were told on the second game that they had to perform the Nazi salute. And they stuck 2 fingers up at the fans. And this is the kind of messaging we need to stand up. We need to be counted, and we need to have the moral fibre and the backbone to put all the resources that need to be put in place into place to make sure that away fans and Jewish people are safe in our city.
Do you believe Ayub Khan MP when he said, in terms of safety, football, hooligans and safety are the key points here, not faith?
I mean, if you look at the...
Let me ask you an easier question. Do you think Ayub Khan's motives are pure here? Is he being honest?
Yeah, this is what I was going to touch on. If you look at the background to this guy, right, he was a Liberal Democrat councillor in Birmingham, and 2 years ago he was offered anti-Semitism training because he put up posts on social media that questioned the atrocities of October the 7th. And you listen to some of the comments that he comes out with, and you read the petition, and it's clear that there's a lot more to this than just simply wanting to, protect residents from away fans. The real problem is that we've got a lot of sectarian politics in this country, and Robert Jenrick was lambasted for criticising parts of Birmingham to say that integration and segregation was not happening. But this is the type of messaging that banning away fans kind of reinforces that viewpoint, doesn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, nobody should feel unsafe about coming to any city in Birmingham.
Completely agree. Richard, thank you. That's Councillor Richard Parkin there, Birmingham City Councillor for the Conservatives. His ward is Sutton Redicap. Thank you to Richard. Thanks to Jill in Berkshire. I'm so incensed about this decision that Maccabi fans can't go to the match. If that's the case, then no fans should be allowed and the game should be played with no one in the arena. This is a stain on Britain to allow this. This is racism to the max. Tom in Pontypridd says, so in effect the police are saying they can't protect Jewish football fans from the pro-Gaza Muslim community of Aston. The left has to stop appeasing the Islamist Muslim community and scrap the so-called Islamophobia legislation and perhaps more pertinently introduce new anti-Semitic legislation. The left are a disgrace, says Tom. Tom, I don't think every single person, I don't think you're actually implying this either, that everybody in Aston, hates Jews. I don't think that for a second. But where is the threat actually coming from here? That is the question we need to be. There's so many questions we need to be answered here. Let's hear a voice note from Rob.
Hello, Peter. It's Rob here in Starbridge, just south of anti-Semitic, racist Birmingham. Peter, why is nobody saying it? Yeah, we live in an anti-Semitic country now, and you can deny it and you can say we're not, but we are, because it starts from the top down. And you just look at the Labour government. What's the only party? Well, another party, but what two parties have been done for racism? The Labour Party for anti-Semitism. Right, I'm going to say they haven't got rid of it. They've just learned to hide it better, Pete. That's all they've done. Learn to hide it better. And the country is a reflection of what it's run by. Yeah, and my reflection as an Englishman in my own country, yeah, I see anti-Semitism running rife, Pete, and it starts from the top.
Rob, thank you for your thoughts there. Let's hear one from Alicia in Chelmsford.
Good morning, Peter. It's Elisa from Chelmsford. I'd like to look at the whole Maccabi issue from a different perspective. I used to teach problem solving, and anyone who's ever dealt with problem solving will know that in order to eliminate a problem, you need to identify the root of it. Now, if we go back to how this all started, what is the root of the problem? And as far as I can tell, it's pure Jew hate, Israel hatred, which instigated this petition. Yes, I know, I'm sure that Ayub Khan would deny it, etc. But, we're not stupid. Your listeners aren't stupid. And that is the issue we really need to be dealing with. If you identify the root and deal with that root, then you wouldn't have the problem. You'd get rid of it.
Thank you for your thoughts there. More of your messages and your calls coming your way next here on Talk.
My home has been broken into, my files have been ransacked, somebody has been put into my office by a hostile state, and two parties are playing politics with it. Yeah. This is national security of the United Kingdom. And the government's response is not, as mine was, do everything you can to make sure the prosecution works, but no, process. Well, who the hell's side are you on? This isn't about the bureaucracy, this is about leadership. We're not sent here to be civil servants, we're sent here to lead the country and to make decisions.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's play a couple more voice notes now. Rob has been in touch. Oh no, we've played that one. Sorry. Izzy in Kent has been in touch in regard to Prince Andrew. Let's hear what Izzy has to say.
Hello, Peter. Love the show. Always listen. It's Izzy from Kent here. But I have to say, please, stop talking about that big bore, that big idiot, so-called Prince Andrew. Nobody cares. Yes, say it in the news. It's a news item. Perfectly understand that. But to go on and discussions about this and that and Prince Andrew this and Prince Andrew that. Yes, he's a horrible man. We all know he's a horrible, vile man. But please, we're not interested. I bet a lot of people think like me. Let's see if any other people say the same as me. He's a bore, so it's a boring subject. But love you, Peter. See ya. Bye.
Thanks, Izzy. I appreciate that. Not every story is for everyone. I do think Prince Andrew is a big story. It's the front page of all the papers, or most of the papers today. I tell you what, Izzy, I'm going to ask Penny Mordaunt one, maybe two questions about Prince Andrew in a minute or two, and then I don't think we'll discuss it probably for the rest of the programme, unless people ring in and want to talk about it, because the beauty, Izzy, of this show and all the shows on Talk is that, yeah, it's my show, but it's your show too, and if you want to talk about it, if you want to get something on the air and make a point, well, you just give me a ring and we put you on and we have a chat about it, just as we did with you, Izzy. But listen, thanks for your very, very kind comments. I appreciate that. Andrew has been in touch in regard to the cakes in nursery. This is nurseries banning birthday cakes because of guidance from the Labour government, the Department for Education. This is what Andrew's thoughts on that are.
In regards to the nursery and the lack of birthday cake, my nursery I send the kids to now doesn't do pudding, it does starters instead. And the funny thing is, you now get garlic bread as a starter instead of just on the side with your spag bowl, which you used to. So it's another cost-cutting exercise. And they do it all under the guise of it being healthier. And I pay £900 a month minimum for the privilege of it. It's an absolute joke. Why have we gone so woke? What's wrong with having a pudding after you've eaten your meal as a kid? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
£900 a month. Honestly, people tell, I don't have children, but people tell me about nursery costs. There was one, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who, now fair enough, is London, which is more expensive, but a friend of mine who said that her son going to a nursery for a number of years, sort of childcare for a number of years, cost her and her husband 30 grand. It's crazy. Andrew, thank you. Also, garlic bread. I've tasted it. It's the future. Right then, let's speak to John in Liverpool. Just give me a ring on 0344 499 1000. John, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
I just wanted to talk about obviously the football and the decision of Birmingham to not be able to protect 1,000 travelling fans, and what there seems to be a distinct lack of moral fibre with this topic, and I think people are trying to avoid like the glaring obvious that's happening. And I don't think if we were in Manchester, I don't think we would be having this issue. And I think that people seem to be skirting around just being honest and saying that a large percentage of the community within Birmingham Now, we're not sitting here and saying that every single Muslim is a bad person in this country, but I think one of the biggest problems that we are having in this country is the actual fear of calling things for what they are. And would this happen in Manchester? Probably not. Would it happen in any other city? Probably not. We're talking that was it the second city of this country, and the police force are unable to protect 1,000 people.
Well, this is my point, and the point that hasn't been answered in all of this, John, which is the one that you're pointing towards, which is the threat from the fans or is the threat to the fans? And I think the threat is more to the fans than from the fans. Yeah, there are a few thugs, there are a few football hooligans. That's the case with most large football teams. But if you look at what happened in Amsterdam a year ago, that was an organised, what they said on WhatsApp groups was, as they put it, a Jew hunt. And there were...
But at the moment, that seems to be acceptable in this country. We can have myself and my partner are both veterans. I'm very much a patriot. If I walk around a majority of the major cities in this country with a Union Jack on display, that's unacceptable these days.
I know, it's outrageous. It's outrageous.
Pro-Palestinian marches with people flying known terrorist organisation flags. And you had a guest on earlier on, and when referring to this, I think she said, and don't quote me directly, but a point was more, we've had a rise in anti-Semitism, and Muslim.
Yeah, that was Christine Jardine, the Lib Dem MP, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't feel that second part needs putting in. You don't, but it's fear. It's a fear that once the mainstream media get even a sniff of, well, you can't say that.
Yeah.
But that's blatantly obvious what's happening. I think if we went to any other major city where the demographic was a bit different, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And I think it just goes to show how, like, this country used to be great. Immigration made this country. I grew up in a very Sikh-heavy community where I grew up, and it was a lot of Asian, majorly Chinese, and then Sikh was like the big demographic I grew up around, and it was fantastic. It was a brilliant melting pot. And these days, we're sort of we can go down the forced immigration route that we're having at the moment. It's a different conversation, but we're just terrified now. You can't just speak sense.
John, I think you are speaking sense, and thank you for your call, and thank you for your service to our country and your partner's service to our country as well. I appreciate that. Andrew is in South Wales. Andrew, what would you like to say?
Hi, Pete. I don't know if it's worth me coming on now after what John just said.
He was very good, wasn't he? He made the points very, very well.
He said everything that I was going to say. I mean, I remember speaking to, it must have been about a year ago when Labour first got into power, and I was saying, like, there's an air of, it's tangible, like this anti-Semitism that's building in this country. And it was basically it's infected schools, universities, academics. Like, I see students walking around with Palestinian flags on now as T-shirts. Yeah. If I was to wear an Israeli shirt, imagine the outcry imagine the disdain that I would get. Yeah. It's tangible on everyday society now. This is, you get people like, saying like, oh, let's have a march of Palestine from Merthyr, my town. Like, what has Palestine got to do with Merthyr?
Yeah, I mean, look, people are entitled to their opinions. They're entitled to protest. But as you say, you're absolutely right in what you're saying there. You're absolutely right in saying that. Some things are acceptable and some things aren't. But we've got to, if we do have true freedom of speech, if we do have true freedom of expression, well, then those football fans should be able to watch a football match.
Yeah, of course. Why shouldn't they? Like, and I know people are saying, oh, well, it's part of the fans, but there's that small, hardcore part of the fans. And
also, the police can identify those fans, and the police can ban those fans, and UEFA hasn't banned the fans coming.
And the British public aren't stupid. They're looking at this, and they know what's going on.
We know what's going on, and we know what's at the heart of it as well. We know exactly. Andrew, listen, thanks for your call. I do think it was worth having you on. It was very good to have you on. Thank you for that. Derek's been in touch and says, regarding the ban on Israeli fans coming to Villa Park, we must remember West Midlands Police are the same force that stood back in the summer of 2024 and allowed Muslims to barricade Heartlands Hospital in Sketchford in Birmingham, attack people in the local pub and intimidate outside media. I don't know about that. I must say, Derek, I'm not not familiar with that case. I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm just not familiar with it. I'll read the rest of Derek's message anyway. The police stayed at their headquarters a mile away, claiming community leaders were controlling the situation. Could Westminster police not use their influence to stop their residents from causing problems to Jewish fans and allow their attendance? It might be relevant that Aston Borders Handsworth, where Mr Jenrick recently visited. Thank you to Stephen in Middlesbrough. Steve in Middlesbrough. I wonder if the police know what is going to happen and are a bit reluctant to arrest the instigators for upsetting a certain minority. Drip, 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 says Wendy. Ban Jews at football, ban women from a fun run, unwittingly eating halal meat. Slowly, slowly, we're all living under Islam. Stuart says, oh well, I'll read that out actually a bit later on. Dan says the left need to realise that Israel has a nope, can't quite understand that one, sorry. Jeff in Aberdeenshire says houses of multiple occupancy should not be allowed. At the end of the day, the people being housed should not be wandering our streets and free to roam. We are doomed. And says Jeff and John in Wallington, if the Israeli fans are allowed into Villa Park, many thousands of Muslims from all parts of Britain could fill the streets in protest. The fear of a terror attack is very real. The police have a terrible situation to deal with, says John in Wallington. Well, one woman who will know about this is the former Defence Secretary, Dame Penny Mordaunt. She's got a new book out on Britain's traditions, things that so many of us want to keep, and we want to keep Britain, many of the traditions that are so good. She, of course, carried the sword at the King's coronation. We'll be asking her about that, her new book, and anti-Semitism as well. She's been co-chairwoman of the Commission on Anti-Semitism as well. So we'll talk to Dame Penny Mordaunt in just a second. If you've questions, thoughts for her, by all means, get in touch. 0344 499 1000. Stay with us.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's speak now to Dame Penny Mordaunt. She's written a new book called Pomp and Circumstance, Why Britain's Traditions Matter. She's written it with Chris Lewis. It's published by Biteback, and in the interests of Ofcom compliance, I should be absolutely clear that Biteback is the publisher of my book, Political Animals, which is out now in all good bookshops. Penny, you're very welcome to the programme. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Glad to have got you a plug as well there. Peter.
Excellent. Well, we're authors together. We're going to talk about the book in a second, but I just want to ask you first, because you've done great work on anti-Semitism, your view on what's happened in regard to Villa Park and Tel Aviv Maccabees. They've been banned, the fans have been banned there. The Prime Minister says he's going to do all he can to make sure they can go. Do you think this, what do you think this says about the UK and the state of anti-Semitism in this country?
Well, it's the wrong decision, and I'm glad that so many from across the political divide have come out and said that. If you go and look at what Lord Mann has said, he's the independent advisor on anti-Semitism and the co-author of the Commission on Anti-Semitism that I worked on with him. He actually, before this decision was made, got into the detail, and he's released all the statistics about how many arrests they were at the Ajax Maccabi Tel Aviv match, and there were 62 arrests, and only 10 of those were Israelis. All the people that were injured, and no one was hurt seriously, were Israeli. So the idea that this is an enormous number of football hooligans that we can't cope with. And I've also just compared that to what happened in last year's Euros and our domestic game and numbers of arrests. It is, and that is just, I think, not a credible line to take.
Do you think Ayub Khan, the MP, is being disingenuous when he's talking about the threat from Maccabi Tel Aviv fans? He's mentioned Amsterdam and the attacks in Amsterdam on a number of occasions, when actually the vast majority of the violence was a very targeted campaign against Maccabi Tel Aviv fans and Jews in Amsterdam.
Well, all credit to the guy. When he's giving interviews and says that, he understands that line collapses in about 30 seconds, and then he goes on to his real agenda, which is anti-Semitism. I mean, I think you've spoken to many people this morning, I'm sure.
Do you think he's an anti-Semite?
I think that he is. Yeah, I do. I think this is trying to stop a particular group of people from going to a football match, just as you have particular groups of people trying to cancel Jewish artists or put pressure on art centres or threatening them that if they don't cancel those people, they're going to smash their windows or they're going to have a huge amount of hassle. And I understand what the police have said. I understand what other venues, whether it's in the arts or music industry, have said about these things, and those are understandable. They worry about the backlash, they worry about their finite resources. But we have to remember they might be understandable, but they are not acceptable. The people of this country do not want us to give in to extremists. If we do, we will just have more extremists. So I think that the consensus has now reached a sensible position, which is that this ban should not be allowed to stand. It needs to be properly policed and resourced. They need the resource to do so. And if the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom can't get that to happen, then I think that will be the final straw of people losing faith in politicians being able to do anything at all.
Just to say, Ayub Khan, I'm sure, would deny being an anti-Semite, but people can make up their own minds in terms of what he said, and indeed what Penny has said as well. Part of what you talk about in the book, Pomp and Circumstance, Why Britain's Traditions Matter, is the important role of the royal family. There's another controversy today, of course, on Prince Andrew. He's not going to be using his titles as the Duke of York. Do you think that's the right decision? Should it have come beforehand, perhaps?
I think it is the right decision, and I think it is important that we separate the institution of the royal family from the personalities in it. And I think the King has made the right decision. It just so happens that the King, I think, is a good and kind man, and I think he's made the right decision.
You, of course, took part in one of the most important ceremonies that can happen in this country, the coronation, carrying that sword. What was that like?
It was an amazing experience, and actually that whole period from the Accession Council and being the late Queen's last Lord President right through to the coronation and being the King's first Lord President, that taught me so much about our country, because particularly when we lost the late Queen, that was against the backdrop of immense turmoil. We had the Liz Truss administration just come in, and it was a time of great upheaval for the country. And we'd identified that moment in our security documents as a moment of potential peril for the nation. It wasn't a foregone conclusion that the nation would accept the new king. And so I was very nervous about that. But I saw how these incredible ceremonies that weren't just about what was going on in London or Scotland, it was about the whole country, the proclamations, for example, that were given after the Queen died. They brought us all together and they gave us a sense of ourselves. They clothed us in our rightful mind and got us through some tough times. So I started looking at our traditions in more detail, and I discovered some really remarkable things. They're on the rise. Communities are creating more of these or reviving them. Organisations that have them perform better and are liked better by the public, and people who have managed to deliver really transformational change for the country for the better. Margaret Thatcher being one example of that. They could only do that because their radical programme was anchored in the familiar, the traditional, our faith, the familiar things. And I just think we can, at this moment, when people want that transformational politics, and the world is changing rapidly and it's becoming more dangerous and less reliable and more uncertain, there is something in how we organise ourselves in this country and these traditions that could, I think, be the superpower that sees us through this.
I remember as a special advisor in the Ministry of Justice, my boss, Sir Robert Buckland, I know you know him well, was the Lord Chancellor, the person who handed the Queen the Queen's speech. And Robert's wife couldn't make it to the ceremony, so I was given her seat in the gallery, and it was just an amazing experience to think that so many of these people taking part in so many of the traditions that were dating back centuries. I mean, this was something that had been done for such a very, very long time. I mean, what do you make when people say, look, you know, do we really need a Fitzalan Pursuant Extraordinary? You know, would if that didn't happen, if we didn't have people, heralds, and we didn't have these traditions, and we didn't have what some people see as, you know, silly costumes and pomp and circumstance in the name of your book, would that really make much of a difference, actually? And can we sort of scale it back a bit?
Well, we do scale things back a bit. I mean, the coronation was an hour shorter. I was very grateful for that. The 53 version, my feet certainly were. But
did you? Sorry to interrupt you. I read something somewhere that you had taken painkillers before carrying the sword because it was going to be such a heavy thing to have. Is that true?
Well, me and my fellow sword bearers, the defence chiefs, one of those had ejected from an aircraft, so we were all sort of physical wrecks. So there was a lot of Voltarol and ibuprofen consumed that day. But I mean, when I was looking at the functions that all of these, whether it's different positions that people occupy, whether it's the ceremony and the rituals that we go through in these services, they actually hold our uncodified constitution together. And one of the chapters in the book looks at this in detail. They're the kind of glue that makes it make sense. We don't have a written constitution like the United States does. We've got things that are written down, but they're written down in 400 different places, and they're held together by people carrying big swords and other things. But what that gives us is incredible flexibility. These are rules and guidelines that have been forged over 1,000 years, and they've been stress tested to destruction, which is why what's happening in the United States at the moment, where you've got institution bashing and powers being hoovered up from Congress and Congress not sure what it thinks about that, why that won't work well here, that kind of creative chaos. We need to do things if we want to modernize in a way that brings us back to the certain, the dependable, the reliable. And I think at a time when politicians are grappling for how to do some pretty radical things, which is what the country needs us to do if we want to halve the cost of energy, if we really want to transform the NHS to be all it can be, we need to do those things that also reminds us how successful we've been at things in the past.
Speaking of politicians grappling, is Kemi Badenoch grappling?
No, I think she's doing very well. And there's the polls.
Her poll numbers they may have gone up a bit, but they're still very far behind.
Well, I know, but you have to go up in order to do that, and that is what she is doing. I mean, I thought her announcements at conference were great, and that is an example of the big stuff the country needs to see. You have you have got to you can't take baby steps anymore. We have got to, if you want to really be a balance to China, you need more engineers. You need to win the technological war. That's what you need to do, and that requires us to do things in a different way. Kemi understands that, and it will take her a little while to climb back up, but she's on the way, and I'm backing her all the way.
Stuart has been in touch and says, I met Penny a couple of years ago at an event in Ilkley in Yorkshire. She's very nice indeed, and in my opinion she needs to start getting tough and start promoting and talking about just what the vast majority of patriotic British people are saying, and start speaking to Nigel about joining Reform. What do you make of that?
Well, Nigel, I don't know him well, and he's doing his thing. He's been a disruptor all his political career, but there's things that he is doing and says that I just don't believe in. I didn't know until after the last general election that the candidates he fielded in Scotland were pro-independence. So I don't think any person that believes in the United Kingdom and drapes themselves in the Union flag and says that they do so should be sidling up to in the independence movement north of the border. I also believe that the trajectory this country should be on is to have a smaller state. And just look at his last manifesto, 150 billion in additional public expenditure. He makes Rachel Reeves look pretty prudent. So I don't want to do that. I think what this country needs, and what the sense I get from the many members of the public I talk to all over the country, is they want their nation to be capable. They want to be proud of it. They want it to focus on the things that they know needs doing. They need a better health service for what they're paying for it. They need to halve the cost of energy. They need their government to seriously back business and reward people that take responsibility. I can give you a big long list. Actually do what we need to do to defend this country and make us the most resilient country on earth. That requires competence. It requires a proper plan and capabilities. In the book I talk about actually the narrative you need as well to do big things and take everyone with you, and the only politician I see doing that is Kemi.
Capable, proud and focused, kind of three words that describe someone I know in this conversation. Penny, tell me, is elected politics over for you? You are a dame, you've been a cabinet minister 4 times. Could you come back? Do you want to come back?
I would love to come back. It is the most incredible privilege to be in the House of Commons, and you can get some really wonderful things to happen for the people you represent and also the country. So I shall try and go back. But as you know, Peter, it's all luck and timing, this business. But if I don't make it, it won't be through want of trying.
You're actually in my book, Penny, because you apparently brought in your cat to deal with the mouse problem and were admonished for it, if I read that correctly.
Well, it's a philosophy I've always taken when I was MP for Portsmouth, that if the authorities aren't going to sort something out, roll up your sleeves and do it yourself. Yep. And as you know, Peter, I've long been an advocate for credible deterrence of the nuclear variety and the moggy varieties. Just bringing the moggies in for a short period of time was enough to tell the mice to stay out of my office and the ministerial corridor in general.
I'm on your side on this. Penny, good luck with the book. It's called Pomp and Circumstance, Why Britain's Traditions Mattered, by Dame Penny Morton.
Can I just say, Peter, all the proceeds from the book are going to veterans charities. So if anyone's looking for something to put in a Christmas stocking, please consider it.
Excellent, yes. Community causes, and including the Royal Hospital Chelsea and the Household Cavalry Foundation there. Dame Penny Morton, thank you for joining us. Pomp and Circumstance, Why Britain's Traditions Matter. She's written that with Chris Lewis. Dame Penny Morton there is published by Bite Back, also my publisher of Political Animals, out now in bookshops and on Amazon. Just saying that just in case anyone could accuse me of a conflict of interest. We have the same publisher, Bite Back, which has published Political Animals. Right then, lots of opinions coming your way on everything Penny Morton was talking about, and anything else you want to talk about. You want to get your voice on the air between now and 12:30? 0344 499 1000.
One thing that I think that one concern that people do have is about, you know, the wider capability of espionage that comes from this super embassy, right? And that's on these alleged cables, which we haven't had confirmation of their existence yet. So it would be really, really good if the intelligence services would give us their assessment on the record of what they think those are. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's not possible because it's classified, but it seems pretty important to this decision if they think that the risk can be managed or not at all. If they don't think the risk can be managed, we shouldn't be having this conversation at all.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's hear a voice note from Sharon in Yorkshire regarding integration.
Peter, I think that this is a line in the sand with regards to the football match now. Things are boiling up underground, and we need to put our foot down now and say, no, this is how it is supposed to be in this country, and we make the decisions. It's just going to get worse if we don't start and put our foot down. You can see that there's a boiling resentment underneath where everybody's just fed up of people telling us what to do in our own country. It needs to change. We're on a nice march this afternoon, and we'll keep doing that. We'll just need to put our heads above the parapet now and just say enough's enough. Good show, Peter. Sharon from Yorkshire.
Thanks, Sharon. Much appreciated. Thanks for sending that in. You can send these voice notes in really simply, just the same way as you send a voice note to anybody else. 0344 499 1000. Let's hear from Mark in Lancashire.
Yeah, hello, Peter. It's Mark in Lancashire. Personally, this MP, Ayub Khan, I would like to see his citizenship rescinded, his passport cancelled, and I'd like to see him deported back to Pakistan. And in my opinion, British citizenship is a privilege, not a right. If he's over here preaching hate, just because he's an MP makes absolutely no difference, in my opinion. He's no better than an Islamist hate preacher who we would also want to deport. We need to start deporting these people, get them out the country. Hate preacher, be gone. Back to Pakistan, and he can ban all the Jews he wants from football matches there. Couldn't care less. Get rid of him.
Mark, thank you for that. Now, Ayub Khan was born in Pakistan, but he's in this country legally. He's a citizen of this country. He's an elected member of Parliament. Whether he should be saying the things he's saying, that's another matter. Let's speak to Trevor in London, who's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Trevor, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Well, good morning, Peter. Peter, you and I are from the same country, and we both know in Northern Ireland we had rival fans that attended each other's football matches in Belfast. And the likes of the police didn't stop those marches going ahead. The police policed them accordingly. The police put enough police presence there to ensure that thuggery didn't stop the match happening. Now, I don't understand if the police don't allow this to happen. The police are basically saying, first of all, that they cannot stop violence happening on their streets, or else they're not prepared to. But it also sends a message as well that these thugs, these Islamist thugs that signed these petitions, are going to keep winning, and we have to stop this. We have to ensure that these people don't win this. And this is a country where we were given the right of freedom by those that died for our freedom in 2 world wars. So let's not forget that. And these people need to understand.
Trevor, it's a really good point, Trevor. And I've been to when I was younger, when I was sort of teenage years, used to go to quite a lot of football matches, and sometimes things where there was a huge police presence there. I remember that. Also, Rangers and Celtic, there were bans for a few years on various fans, but even they now fans are allowed to come and to each other's grounds, to Celtic Park and to Ibrox. So if they can police those, surely they can police this. And I think the wider point you make is a really good one. We cannot give in to people who want to ban specific teams from this, especially when they simply happen to be Israeli.
I mean, what are we saying? Are we saying that? I mean, this is a football match. This is nothing else other than a football match. And these thugs on the left are turning it into something that it shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be allowed to happen. And this is what we need to send this message out. And the government need to put their foot down and say how it is.
Do you have confidence that Keir Starmer will sort this out?
No, I don't, because I think that he's too weak, and I think the sooner we get a stronger government in, the better.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Trevor in London there, originally from my part of the world. No suggestion, obviously, that everybody who signed the petition is an Islamist thug. I'm just keeping Trevor and me on the right side of the law with that one. We're going to talk about American issues in a minute with Steve Gill, former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administration. Zelensky offering drones for Tomahawks to Trump. Will he accept them? We'll also make sure we get more of your thoughts and calls on between now and 12:30. Loads to discuss here on Talk. Be sure to give me a ring, 0344 499 1000. You can also send me your voice notes in on that number as well. Plenty to discuss between now and 12:30. Stay with us.
very good morning to you, by the way. Morning, Corey, with me, Mike Brown.
Just some breaking news for you coming out of Liverpool Crown Court.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the programme. Welcome to the home of common sense.
Loads to talk about, I promise you that. Loads and loads and loads.
Yes, it's me again, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan.
How realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, this is Talk. I'm Peter Cardwell. Thank you so much for your company. The main story we're talking about today is, of course, this match at Villa Park, Maccabi Tel Aviv. Those fans have been banned. We're also talking about Prince Andrew. We're also talking about America. Zelensky offering Trump drones for Tomahawks. Will he get them? And could there be peace in Ukraine? Loads to discuss. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can text me 87222 with the word talk in your text. You can tweet me at talkTV. Follow me at Peter Cardwell. Send me a voice note. We'll play more of those in a second. Just send them through on 0344 499 1000. That's the same number for WhatsApp text messages and to give me a ring. Loads to discuss between now and 12:30. Stay with us here on Talk. And tomorrow, the Shadow Energy Secretary will be joining me. Claire Coutinho will be on the programme between 10 and 1. Plenty to talk about then as well. On the Villa Park controversy, Ayub Khan is the MP. Interestingly, Dame Penny Mordaunt said he was an anti-Semite earlier. I'm sure Ayub Khan would deny that. He spoke originally about the petition to ensure that the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans didn't make it to Villa Park. This is what Ayub Khan said.
Many residents have raised concerns about the football match, which is due to take place on the 6th of November. Maccabi Tel Aviv. We've all seen those harrowing images from Amsterdam. I've started a petition to boycott Maccabi Tel Aviv. There is no space for violence or any thugs to come into Aston or indeed Birmingham. That is why I urge everyone to sign up to this petition. Boycott Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Then he got the ban he wanted and he was jubilant.
Well, excellent news for the people of Birmingham and, most importantly, the residents here in Aston. I launched a petition to oppose the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming to Birmingham and then into the Aston Villa Stadium. The surrounding ward of Aston is a ward that sits within my constituency, and I had many residents and businesses express concern of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans from coming into our area. Clearly, we have all witnessed the scenes in Amsterdam, the violence that was displayed by the fans the night before the match. We all watched and listened to those vile chants of hatred and racism, and so there's no space for that kind of behaviour here in Birmingham. There's certainly no space for that kind of conduct in Aston. So I'm very pleased that both the West Midlands Police and Aston Villa Football Club have now written to UEFA informing them of their decision not to allow any fans from entering Birmingham and Aston.
Well, in both of those videos, Ayub Khan mischaracterises, I think is the most generous interpretation, of what happened in Amsterdam when Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were there. What happened was, yeah, there were a few hooligans, they pulled down a Palestinian flag, they sang a few things in Hebrew that they shouldn't have sung. But what happened was that Jews were targeted. There was a specific targeting of Jews that was pre-planned. 7 people were hospitalised and 20 were injured. Doesn't find time to mention that. I'll speak to Joanne in Derbyshire about this. She's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. Joanne, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
I've worked as a football steward, and one of the questions you get in your spectator safety exam is, what do you do when you get this scenario that you've just described?
Okay.
The problem is people don't realise that the policing for a football match comes out of the annual budget for your county for that year.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you need any extra policing, which West Midlands Police would have recommended to Aston Villa, they would have to pick up the tab for the policing bill.
There are
And Aston Villa would have refused it because it costs a lot to police a football.
They've got a lot of money, though.
Anyway.
They're a Premier League club.
They have, but they won't spend it. Yeah, football clubs are terrible for spending it when it comes to that.
But we
They
know
will
this is,
not
I mean,
do it.
I'm sure money's a factor, Joanne, but it's about more than that, isn't it?
Yes, but if you've got a problem where one group of fans don't get on with another, all you do is you don't allow any fans in, you just play the game behind closed doors, then you're not seen as being targeting either side of fans. You're being the neutral, and that is what should have taken place. They've not handled it professionally, and it has come across that they're targeting Jewish people, and that is wrong. We don't do that in Britain.
Unfortunately, that seems to happen more and more. Joanne, thank you for that insight there. Very, very interesting to talk to you, Joanne, in Derbyshire there. Thank you for your contribution there. We'll come back to this issue. We'll talk about it more as the show goes on, but I just want to talk about America now, because Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, has offered Donald Trump thousands of drones in exchange for long-range Tomahawk missiles. He was talking in the White House yesterday to Donald Trump. They held a press conference, and the Ukrainian president said they hoped the two countries could reach an agreement on a weapons exchange. Steve Gill is with us, the former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administration. Steve, we certainly, thanks for joining me today, we certainly heard the warm words from both President Zelensky and President Trump, but no agreement on this necessarily.
Yeah, and actually you had Zelensky leave with no weapons, pretty much the admonition from President Trump, you're not going to be expanded into NATO, we ought to stop where the front lines are now. And actually you had the president and the vice president, J.D. Vance, when Zelensky made this offer of, we'll give you drones for Tomahawks, they kind of looked at each other and smiled. I mean, they were literally almost mocking him. And I think it also revealed the close personal relationship between J.D. Vance and President Trump, as you kind of saw some of those insights of how they physically were reacting to each other during the conversation with Zelensky.
They also said he looked, I think Trump said he looked beautiful in his suit as well. There was a sly reference there. Is this all mind games with Zelensky? And actually, does any of it actually bring any level of peace in Ukraine any closer because of these upcoming talks between Trump and Putin?
I think the better sartorial expression was the fact that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War or Defense, is wearing a Russian-styled tie. I mean, the colors of his tie were literally the Russian flag. So there were a lot of, I think, not coincidental messages that were being sent. I think President Trump, not only how he dealt with Zelensky, but also the planned meeting upcoming with President Putin, with the conversations of some of the potential business deals between the U.S. and Russia, including this potential tunnel between Alaska and Russia through the Bering Strait, which interestingly, Zelensky said he did not like that idea. And President Trump said, well, I didn't think you would. But I do think that there are, again, moves from President Trump in this upcoming meeting with Putin that I think do signal the possibility of getting this thing ended, particularly President Trump, putting the complete quash on this idea of sending Tomahawks to Ukraine, which would ratchet up, would be very provocative in terms of pushing this conflict much closer towards a World War III scenario. And I think we are seeing some glimmer of hope that President Trump is now listening to people who actually understand the battlefield rather than some of those who've been promoting World War III because they might profit from it with more weapons sales.
In terms of Putin, will he listen to Trump? Do you think those talks will be worthwhile? Because, of course, Trump felt really betrayed after the Alaska talks a few months ago between Putin and Trump.
Well, I think Putin responded after Zelensky refused to back off the NATO demands, back off the idea of we're going to retake the Ukrainian territories in East Ukraine. Basically, President Trump and President Putin essentially had a deal to get this thing done. And then it was the EU and it was Zelensky who refused to even move from the demands that Ukraine be part of NATO, that these territories be retaken, and that basically any kind of a timeout weapons-wise would just allow Ukraine to rearm and go back to conflict. So I think that President Trump and President Putin have had the framework of a deal. and hopefully they will conclude it when they meet in Budapest.
Steve, thank you. Just before you go, actually, I hear you've got a speaker for your class on Wednesday who's incredibly intelligent, erudite, and handsome. I hear that that's happening.
I thought we had Cardi P coming.
I will chat to you on your class on Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that.
I am looking forward to that. And my class is loving it. I'm teaching international business at Belmont here in Nashville, and I'm bringing guests like you in via Zoom. And they are absolutely loving the worldview that they're getting that is very unusual for college classes. And I keep telling them, my job here is not to make you think like me, it's to make you think.
Yep, very good.
They're moving in the right direction. I can't wait to talk to you.
Well,
Wednesday.
Great stuff, Steve. Look forward to that on Wednesday. Thank you very much indeed. Steve Gill there, the former advisor to the Clinton and Bush administrations and now university professor. So let's hear from PJ in Yorkshire regarding Maccabi Tel Aviv.
Morning, Peter. Great show as always. Listen, when I was growing up, I'm 56 now, religion wasn't a big issue apart from what was going on in Ireland. We went to christenings, we went to weddings, we went to funerals. It was all part of it. Didn't matter what faith you were, everybody kind of went on and cracked on. And since this multiculturalism has carried on in England, all that's gone, and I'm fed up with having all this stuff put on us by the so-called minority peaceful religion. It's absolutely terrible that these Israeli fans should be able to go to that football match at Villa. It's shocking. It absolutely shocking. What a bad message to be sending to the rest of the world.
Thank you, PJ. Neil has been in touch and says, am I missing the point? But if some in the Muslim community think it's acceptable to terrorise Jews, which obviously is where the threat is coming from, why aren't we policing the threat and arresting those who instigate us? Obviously, there's intelligence on them or a threat would not be known. Keith in Hastings says, regarding policing, I think the problem with the police goes far as back as Harriet Harman when she forced the police to drop its entry requirements, height, weight and fitness. We now have 5-foot officers with no presence, no physical strength. That is why the chief constables know they would not cope. 20,000 servicemen and women leave the military every year. Surely the police could recruit many suitable people. Great show, Peter, says Keith in Hastings. Keith, I've long said this, and this nonsense that you need a university degree to be a police officer, absolute rubbish. I think, there should be police recruitment in the armed forces every single year, work out who's leaving in about a year's time, their service is coming to an end, and say, look, you're probably thinking about the future, you're probably thinking about another career, we'd love to have you in the police. Servicemen and women have loads of transferable skills. Doesn't matter if you went to university, didn't go to university, we will use the skills you have to become police officers. I think that is absolutely a solution that should be focused on properly, and this nonsense of getting people who've been to university. There's nothing wrong with going to university. I went to university, it suited me, it was something that suited the way I think. That was great. I loved studying history and politics. A lot of people, it doesn't suit them. A lot of people want to do other things, and some police officers should have gone to university, but all of them, nonsense. Graham says maybe a game should be moved to Tel Aviv where Aston Villa supporters won't be banned. Mark in Norwich, if you're a reform voter, should you secretly be hoping that Starmer fails to sort the problem out? Sean says Starmer hasn't got a grip of anything, he's completely useless and won't even do the decent thing and resign. All he ever does is lie and say what he thinks the person standing in front of him at the time wants to hear. We need to treat him with the same disdain as he shows us. Leslie says if the match goes ahead and there is trouble, Starmer is not responsible. It's the fault of the imam who said they would show no mercy to Israel fans. That was Ashrar Rashid. Let's just have a look actually at what this guy said. He's an imam in Birmingham, and the word he used is a word meaning mercy, and he said no mercy should be shown to Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. If that's not incitement, I don't know what is. Let's just remind ourselves what he said a few weeks ago.
We safeguard the vulnerable from any type of exploitation. That is the character of a Muslim, or has a Muslim as a rahmah. Remember, rahmah is in its place. It's in its place. When the Tel Aviv fans come to Birmingham in a few weeks, we will not show them rahmah in Birmingham.
Yeah, I mean, why the police don't intervene when things like that are out there, I don't know. Dan and Kent says the right side of the law, Cardi P, you mentioned at the top of the hour. Where is that in modern Britain? I don't know anymore, Peter, what is happening to us. Alan in Staffordshire, if it helps, Peter, like Trevor, earlier I too hail from Northern Ireland. I have experience of how, if left unchecked, bad things will escalate and become harder to deal with later. Tim says a message for Penny Morden. Penny, ma'am, you have just shown more honour and respect chatting to Peter than 99% of our MPs. God bless you. And And a final one before the break from Alan, who says, a lot of food for thought on the show today. All of this ongoing uncivilised vilification of sections of our communities seemingly has become acceptable in the everyday. They were never challenged and deemed unacceptable like they should have been from day one. And this latest nonsense about a football match is just the latest example. If this ridiculous, ludicrous situation is allowed to stand, it will spread far and wide, not just in this country but across the world. It needs action and not just consternation and words. We need to put civil back into what we used to, by and large, have a civilised society, says Alan in Staffordshire. Very wise words. More of them from you coming up next here on Talk.
Cannot protest and say that you want these people deported without that being brought up in a court of law because you're worried about the safety and protection of women and girls. But you can say that you fear Jews coming to a local football stadium and have them banned from that particular stadium. Does that not go to the very heart of the issue that we have? It's this two-tier approach to absolutely everything.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lisa in Birmingham has been in touch and says, I live far, not far, sorry, let me start that again. Lisa in Birmingham has been in touch and she says, I live not far from the Villa ground. The area is predominantly a Muslim area. Islamists are riding roughshod over our laws and culture. Our government has made damn sure that everyone is too afraid to speak out. Banning the Israeli fans from the match is pure anti-Semitism. I am ashamed of my city. Paul says, it is possible that UEFA may step in and have the Villa game moved to a neutral venue. Maccabi have done nothing wrong, yet they are disadvantaged by having their fans banned from the stadium. What a mess West Midlands police have made of it. Even if they may now allow Jewish fans to attend, what will the fallout be if there is a serious incident? Elsa says, good morning, Peter. I'm so sick of hearing that we have to be kind to good Muslims. They will earn the respect of the rest of us on the day they call out the so-called Islamists, who in my opinion only exist in the mind of appeasers of Islam. We need to stop excusing them because they make no effort to excuse themselves. Please stop gaslighting the public. We know exactly what Islam is. Elsa, I fundamentally disagree with that. I mean, what I would strongly suggest is that you go back and look at the interview I did with Saqib Bhatti. He is a Conservative MP. He is a Muslim. He is a moderate Muslim, speaking out and spoke very, very eloquently against this and said that the match should go ahead. Moderate Muslims do exist. Sometimes they say things in public. More of them should. I agree with you that more of them should, but also they get targeted and they get threats for doing so, and that is the case very, very sadly, which is why all of us, including moderate Muslims, need to speak up so much more about this. Let's hear a voice note from Patrick in Burton-on-Trent.
Hi Peter, Patrick from Burton-on-Trent. Just wondering, if the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans aren't allowed to turn up because they're not welcome, so to speak, what next? Tottenham fans not allowed to turn up? Food for thought.
Very good point. And Tottenham are playing Aston Villa tomorrow, and actually Ajax are playing Chelsea this week as well. So that is happening. That is happening later this week on Wednesday. Cade in Maidstone has a voice note as well. Final one of the day.
Hi Peter, this is Cade from Leiston. When I sit and listen to this Ayub Khan character, where does it end? The Jews will get banned from a football match because it's unsafe. Next, they can't go to public spaces anymore because it's all going to be unsafe. It smacks of Nazism in the 1930s. It absolutely smacks of Nazism. So it is what it is. Where does it start? Where does it end? And how much will us as British people, yes, I'm a British citizen, you either integrate and live under our laws or you leave. It's quite simple. It really is simple. I don't understand why the British public are standing up for this and why they're not doing more to stop it.
Cade, thank you for that. Just say we're going to take one more call, but if you haven't managed to get your call on the air today, please do ring tomorrow. We're going to be talking about this. Ralph Scholhammer, absolutely your favourite guest of all time. He is going to be live in the studio for half an hour tomorrow. No doubt this will come up. If you have questions for him, if you have things you want to talk to Ralph about, do give us a shout in the morning. I'm on between 10 and 1. Final call of the day comes from Brian in Blackpool. Brian, you're very welcome to the programme. What would you like to say?
Good afternoon, Peter. Thank you very much for your wonderful programme. But can I correct one thing?
Sure.
Maccabi football team is a multinational team.
Yeah.
They have got Muslims playing in the team. They have got Druze playing in the team. Mm-hmm. They have got Christians playing in the team. The supporters at Ajax, when they played there, were Muslim Israelis, Christian Israelis. Mm-hmm. A friend of ours is a Druze Israeli who was attacked out there. Now, unluckily, they picked on the wrong guy because he happened to be in special services in the IDF.
Right, so it didn't end too well for those people who picked on him. Brian, we've just got to leave it there. I'm sorry it's such a short call. I do appreciate your patience. And Brian, if you want to give me a ring back tomorrow, we'll see if we can get you all. We also need to get that guy on from last week who talked about honour killings. Yes, another person in Birmingham, actually. We'll see if we can get him on tomorrow, as we promised last week. And then, of course, I completely forgot about it. So apologies for that. We'll see if we can get him on tomorrow. Ralph Scholhammer, as I say, on tomorrow as well. He'll be live in the studio for half an hour. Claire Coutinho is here as well. She is the Shadow Energy Secretary. So join me from 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for all of that. Thanks for your company.